It's Sue with Capstone Leadership here with you today in Fans of the Framework. Wow, having a few technology glitches today. It kept telling me I wasn't authorized to do a live in our group. How about that? But here I am. Guess what? I'm authorized to go live in our group. So sorry I'm a little bit late. But today's topic, I just want to miss out on it. I was so excited to bring this forward is about this idea about clarity and the importance of clarity on leadership, and in particular, frontline leaders, setting them up for success in that work of being a frontline leader. And so I pretty much pride myself for years of being a leader of leaders in my workplace. So when I was working in healthcare for more than 2 decades, most of that time I was a leader of leaders. And so I have this real interest and passion in the success of frontline leaders because, they were the people that worked for me, and I was their leader, and my job was really about their success and setting them up for success. And it took me a while to really uncover this idea that being very clear and specific about, the work of leaders was important for them to be successful. So we really want to talk about the importance of clarity. And actually, I even understand that more after all of these years in our work with Capstone and working with dozens of organizations on transformational change is really, I've just learned so much more about the importance of clarity on setting leaders up for success. So I'll give an example that just happened recently. I was in a healthcare organization. I was meeting with a team of employees, and they were talking about their leaders. I wasn't asking about their leaders. They were sitting there and I was observing, and they were talking about their leaders. And one of the employees in particular was just bragging about their leader, about how great their leader was. And I was kind of like making that mental note about what kind of things were so important to this employee that they were bragging about how great their leader was. And it was things like transparent communication, recognizing and giving feedback, rounding with them one-on-one, giving them personal time, connecting with them, getting to know them as a person, asking, for their input on things. They talked about the goals and the things their department was working on to improve and how exciting that was. So, I was listening to this going, wow, this is fantastic. But what I also noticed in the room that there was some employees that were like, well, my leader doesn't do that. Well, my leader doesn't do that. Well, my leader, I wish my leader did that. And so they work in the same organization, right? These employees were all from the same organization. They just worked in different departments, worked for different leaders. And what I saw is something that we see often in organizations, and I remember this too where I worked, is that there's variation in how leaders lead. And so I was thinking about, in particular, one of those employees in that room was like really, talking about how all the things their leader doesn't do. Like I don't get feedback. I can't remember the last time I was recognized. We don't have staff meetings. Our leader doesn't round with us. We don't set goals, and, going on and on and on like that. So I got to thinking about that leader in particular, and I'm like, does that leader know that they're supposed to do those things, that those are the right things to do, that those are great things to do as leaders, and that their organization expects that of them, and they're choosing not to do it? Are they willfully not doing it, right? Is that what's going on here? And I don't think that's true. I think that that's probably a rare situation where a frontline leader knows that they're supposed to do all of these things. They're trained to do all of these things, and they willfully say, no, I'm not going to do it, right? Um, there's likely a lack of clarity that is the root cause and the underpinning of what is happening here. This variation is likely caused from lack of clarity. Lack of clarity regarding what specifically is required, right? Like there might be this general expectations that leaders communicate well, probably in their job description, great communication, that they give feedback, right? That there's this general expectation or even a job task on a leader's job description that says we give feedback. Things like setting goals or making improvements, that's probably on a job description, right? but is it really clearly known and specific to those leaders that this is what it means, right? So let's say you're a patient, and I hear this term sometimes, non-compliant patient. We'll hear this kind of slung around a little bit about non-compliant patient, and then I have to look underneath that and go, did the patient clearly know what to do? Did we just say to that diabetic patient, oh, you need to take this medicine now and you should eat more healthily and exercise more? Or did we get specific enough to say it's this medication on these days and times taken in this way? This is the diet, this is why, this is the exercise, and this is why. And so when we get to that level of specificity, we set people up for success. And the same is true in leadership. Okay. So in leadership, when we get that specific versus vague or general, communicate, feedback, etc., we set people up for success. And we also set them up for success when we clearly state what's required or mandatory versus what's optional. So there might be some things that we train leaders on that we, mention to them are great ideas or whatever for their leadership, but they may not be required or mandatory as part of the standard work of leaders in your organization. So we need to be clear about that. What's optional, or might be helpful versus what is actually required. And so when we get that clear, and then also not just the what, why, how, and who, and when, but the why. Because I think that, most humans will want to know, well, why? Just like that diabetic patient, why do I have to eat less carbs and more protein or whatever it is? Why do I need to exercise in this way, etc.? So, so that's the kind of thing we're talking about here, is that level of clarity about what, why, who, when, and all of that, because those levels of details set people up for success. It's very hard to meet expectations, do what's right, if it's just so general and unclear and we're not really sure. It's hard to operate from that place. Now, also the great benefit of clarity, not just to the individual, is it allows us to set up accountability systems and training and support systems. So the clarity comes first, and then after we get really clear on this is how we lead around here, then we can set up the training and development systems that support that and are in alignment with that, that also sets up the leaders for success. So if we say we're gonna, part of how we lead around here is we value great and strong relationships between leaders and employees, and the tactic we're going to use is rounding. And this is when we round, this is who we round with, this is how often we round, these are questions that we ask, this is how we do the follow-up, etc. So when we get that clear on that, then we can develop the training and support system that allows them to be successful with that. Right? So you set the expectation, you get very clear, you let them know, is it mandatory or is it optional? And then you can get clear on the training and development. And then in response to the training, you can say, in response to today's training, this is what we're required to do. And at this part of the training, it's optional. You could do something with it if it's helpful. So we need to get that clear in training as well. And that training should be in alignment with those very clear standards about this is how we lead around here. And then again, that clarity helps us also to be able to develop accountability systems. So we're really excited about organizations that adopt the process of monthly accountability meetings where frontline leaders and senior leaders meet together once a month and they check in on these things, right? So if there's 9 core leadership tactics and it's very clear how we carry those out as leaders, and we know and we've been trained how to do that. Now in these accountability meetings, if I was a senior leader, it gives me that opportunity one-on-one, face-to-face to check in with my leaders. How is that working for you? Are you having problems with that? Are you having wins and successes with that? Can I connect you to more training or resources and support? Because I may not be the best person to help you, but I can connect you, right? And so my role is to help set them up for success. And that clarity is the first step. If I'm a vice president and I'm working to set up all my frontline leaders for success, this clarity, the development and training and support, and this accountability process is all part of the equation. So it helps my frontline leaders and it helps me to help them as well. So clarity is certainly the first step. And so I really do believe, after I find myself to be, really in search of these answers about, why is it that, some people, you know, don't do these things that are great practices for leaders. And I think that it's just not been clearly communicated to them. And it also hasn't been, connected to training and development and accountability system. I do think that that's the lacking piece is that clarity and then that cadence that can follow in that clarity after that clarity. So next week, nope, the week after, I just want to tee up something that's going to happen in a couple weeks in this group. So in this group in a couple weeks, because I'm on site with a healthcare organization next week and traveling, but the following week, I'm going to be in this group and I'm going to be doing a live demonstration, if we can get the technology to all work. Going to do a live demonstration of Ascend, which is our platform that includes 2 years worth of plans for leaders, 2 years worth of plans for employee-driven teams that do really 3 main things: improve the employee experience, improve the patient experience, and strengthen leadership. And what it really does is help organizations gain that clarity and then put in those training and accountability systems, all supported by us in the background there, either remotely or in also one-on-one calls with your organization. So want to show that off, want to show what it looks like. And so watch for that notice coming up in a couple weeks in the group that I'll be doing a live demo of Ascend. But if your organization wants a private demo or you just want to talk about what we do at Capstone and learn a little bit more, you can reach us by scheduling a call at capstoneleadership.net/call. So you can self-schedule a call that way too with us, and we hope to hear from you soon or see you at the live demo in the group in a couple weeks. Bye-bye now.